Hello, welcome to YouTooSpain Live. 2 months ago, I spoke to author, radio presenter, and former local councillor Bill Anderson about what the future holds for expats in Spain and about his latest book, which was due to be launched. And today, I'm very glad to say, his book is out and available, and he's back with us to talk about what happened at the launch, whether the book is fact or fiction, and we'll probably wander off topic to talk about anything and everything that's going on in this part of the universe. We like going off on tangents, and including our recent news items from Doogie Dog. Breaking news. Whatever happens, I'm sure you'll enjoy it as much as I will. So join us both on the virtual settee by this lovely virtual pool. Yes, we're talking about fact or fiction. It's all fiction back there. It's all smoke and mirrors. Relax, ask questions on the chat, and stick around for the whole show. There'll be something for everyone. If you're watching the video back afterwards, you can still ask questions and chat in the comments below. First of all, though, gather round, give us a wave, hit the like button, it's over there somewhere, and have your questions ready, or just relax. You're all welcome to YouTooSpain. Let's dance. Here we go. Oh yeah, groovy. Right now, just before we get chatting, the usual messages. Don't forget to make a note of our website. It's going to be there for most of the show, and it's still growing, and there are loads of resources and specialists and links that you need for your move to Spain and for living here, including the very valuable and money-saving info from our friends at Smart Currency Exchange, who have some really good ways of fixing a great exchange rate for you. It's a good idea because the exchange rates tend to tumble at this time of year, and it's a speciality of theirs, this fixing the forward exchange rate. Get in touch with them. Trustpilot agrees with me on that. They are one of the top rated companies. There's a link below to get in touch with them. Doesn't cost you a penny, and it helps YouTooSpain out. That doesn't cost you a penny either when you use the link below. It's a win-win-win with a cherry on top. There it is. So, without further ado, let's meet our excellent guest for today. It's Bill Anderson. Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Scats. How you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. I was just saying we've got a watery theme today.
We have indeed, yes.
In the background. And you had a watery theme last night, didn't you?
Yeah, yes, indeed, yeah. This is the advantage of living in the countryside. We don't have a huge finca, but it's about 2,500 square meters. And we discovered sometime yesterday that we had a leak somewhere. And it took us hours and hours of checking pipes and taps and all over the place, and eventually found it in a really inaccessible place. So we've got a job to do later on today and get the leak fixed.
Yeah, Campo life, eh?
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, my wife says, when you live in the countryside, there's always something that goes wrong, It was the water pump breaks down. Water is the biggest kind of issue that we have sort of routinely. The pump breaks down, something else goes wrong, a pipe springs a leak, or a connection springs a leak, and things like that. You're always hunting all over the place for it,
That's it. We've had ants coming into the house recently. In fact, as I was talking to you before we came on air, Liz was attacked by them last night.
Oh dear.
Yes. Yeah, but we're doing our best to get rid of them. We've got all kind of powders and drops everywhere, so hopefully that will all work.
I'm sure someone will have a recommendation somewhere for the best thing to get rid of ants.
That's a good idea. Yes, that's the question for today, people: how to get rid of them forever.
Vacuum cleaner, first of all. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just breed, and they start a nest in your Hoover, and that's no good. Yeah, we've tried bleach, but they tend to come back very quickly.
Yeah. Having the finca, we don't really mind ants until they invade the house, and then it's like, sorry, no mercy. We don't do anything with them in the garden because they do a good job in the garden, to be honest. But once they start to invade our space, it's like there's no mercy there.
Yeah, if I've got one on me, or if I see one, then I feel like I'm just always going, no, I'm sure that's, oh no, I've got one on my head. And then, oh, it's just, I can't stop. Yeah, mate,
It's
I'm not going to think about it anymore.
the joys of living in the countryside. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Anyway, thank you so much for coming back on the show. We had a hoot last time. We do tend to both go off on a tangent, as you've noticed already,
We
talking about
do, we
ants.
do. Yeah, but that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I was on your radio show yesterday, and we were off on a tangent, but we had the signal drop out several times, and we were cut off from the world.
Yeah,
So that was fun.
I don't know. A week past Friday, I had no internet, and we had a disaster. We had to abandon the show at the end because my guest also had internet problems. I think it was something that was happening along the coast
Mm.
a week past Friday. And then yesterday, our internet was working fantastically. And our producer, who's based in Spain for Expat Radio, had problems with his internet. And yeah, it kind of dropped out. But we kept the recording going, even though nobody was listening to us.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So it's recorded as a podcast. How can people find that?
They will find it eventually. I need a couple of hours to pull it together because I got a bit of editing to do from yesterday. And they'll find it on Bill Anderson Mijas on my YouTube channel.
Brilliant. Yes, I'll advise you to listen to that if you want some more lively chat about. It was all about me, wasn't it? So
It was
there you
all
go.
about you. A very interesting topic, Scats. Yeah.
Fantastic. There's my ego sated for one day. So
Good.
let's say hello to people on the live chat. Who do we have today? Yeah, everybody say hello on the live chat if you haven't already. Paul Cook,
Hello,
good
everyone.
morning. Dan Bryans, Bev, good morning, Bev. Heather Patrick, Paul Jarvis, Beasley, Resonance Filter. That's a
Oh,
lovely name, Resonance. I like names that end in Z. That's perfect. And Alicante Explorer. I still don't know your name, Alicante Explorer, or your gender for that matter. You can put it up if you want to or not. And red blue bell. Very nice. Good morning. So, for those of you who missed last time Bill was on the show, give us a quick biog, Bill. Who is Bill Anderson? You can talk about him in third person if you want.
well, I'm not very sure who he is, to be honest. I guess at my stage of life, I have been many people in many forms.
Mm,
Um, yeah, my background in the UK was in psychological services and working as an advisor to local and central government. When I came out to Spain in 2002, I decided it was going to be a completely new Bill Anderson. I trained as an English teacher, ended up teaching German for 5 years because one of my first degrees was in German, and taught at the university, in a private university in Marbella, and spent 4 years in local government here in Mijas. And right at the moment, I'm kind of, well, moderately happily unemployed. I'm kind of looking at options at the moment.
hmm But yes, you do have your radio show, so at least that's keeping you going.
Yeah, I've got my radio show. Probably will be starting some live streams from around Mijas again, maybe in October now that the holidays are all over, which we were doing once a week, just on different topics, and it was very Mijas based.
Mhm.
Including once a month, one of the councillors to come and talk to us about what's happening in the council meetings, because they are a bit of a mystery.
Mm.
And Anna Nandez talking about Brexity things and sort of updates. Another lady, Daniela Venk from she is the Queen of Calahonda, which is a very large sort of urbanization in Mijas,
Mhm.
probably bigger than Compita, where you live, Scads.
Wow.
And also Lisa Burgess and Costa del Sol Chatter. So we have a sort of variety of things, but it's very much a kind of local live stream. So we'll probably be picking up on that again. And I've had time to write, which has been fantastic.
Mm. Yes, in fact, let's talk about the new book. We talked about it last time, but for people who didn't see the show, you launched it last weekend, and it's a political satire called "Peanuts Don't Grow on Trees." What's it all about?
It's a bit of fun, to be honest. You know, um, I spent a lot of time in the UK, never as a politician, I would have to say, but I spent a lot of time moving in political circles just because of my work. And, it was one of the things that made me decide never to go into politics. Because I think, I'm not talking about corruption here, but politics is a fundamentally dishonest business. What politicians don't tell you is usually far more interesting and far more relevant than what they do tell you. We saw this at the highest level, basically. So I decided never to go into politics. Got my arm twisted, ended up in local politics here, and to be honest, there were no surprises. So, once my term had finished, I didn't get back in again. Vicky said, "Look, this could be a lot of fun. Just sort of exploring at a humorous level the world of politics. So that's what Peanuts Don't Grow on Trees is really about. It's about this fictitious place called Calapene. I won't go into the details of what that means. You need to read the book. And it's had the same government for 40 years. And I think it was Margaret Thatcher who once said a landslide government is not a good government. Or perhaps it wasn't her. I think it was Francis Pym. And they got a landslide government, and I think he got sacked. But when politicians are in power for a very long time, they I think lose the focus a little bit, and the village, the town becomes their town, and it's their money to spend, because they've got this feeling that they're no longer accountable because they've been there in the case of Calapeni for 40 years, and they are doing things the way they want to, and they don't feel accountable to the people anymore. So it kind of picks up on some of these themes. It also picks up on I would call the virtue signaling that happens in local politics and national politics, for that matter, as well, and people making statements because it's the right thing to do. And here in the first book, we've got a climate emergency in paradise. Why? Because it was just the thing. Everybody had to declare a climate emergency. Maybe some of them thought there'd be a bit of cash in it for them. And once they do it, they have no plan B. They declare a climate emergency, and then they got to go. So we've got a climate emergency. What do we do? Sometimes they come up with these bizarre schemes, to cope with climate emergency, and actually most of it is just nonsense. I'm not. I'm a bit of conspiracy theorist, I suppose. I don't want to get into that.
Best not.
But they make decisions based on this climate emergency that we've declared, and you sit back and think, so what? If there is a climate emergency, what difference is this going to make? So we've got Little Calapeni, which is in the first book. It's in black and white. The cover's in black and white, because it kind of reflects the fact that they're still sort of entering the 20th century. And you've got this little village that is everybody's burning log fires, because that's what people in these little places always did. But that's not influencing the climate. But they decide to stop smoking on the beaches because that's bad for the climate. So it's silly little things like this that are kind of picked up on, and I'm going to say corruption, and it's corruption in the sense that they're running the place for their own benefit, and not really for the benefit of the municipality, because they've just lost sight of that.
That sounds very familiar. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, and to make it worse, you've got this. I call them. It's as simple as ABC. These three families, the Alarcons, Benitos, and Cruz, who's basically their families bought the village when it was nearly abandoned, 100 years ago, and,
Mhm.
and they own half the village, and they decide what comes in, what goes out. They decide who gets what, and they decide what houses are going to be sold and to whom, and all this kind of stuff. So
Uh-huh.
it uh, basically, I'm taking this. Sorry, can I say that?
I think so. I'm not sure. I always have to hold back just in case.
Okay, I've said it now.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really taking the mickey out of just about everybody, and there's nobody comes out of it very well, to be honest. Even the Brits, who are nice people, but they live in their little bubble, and nothing affects them, and their daily routine is the same day
Hmm.
after day, week after week. And they sit round, have their coffee and occasionally a brandy, and they basically talk about nonsense, what's on the telly, and things like that, and nothing touches them,
Uh-huh.
you know. So I had a great lot of fun writing it. Um,
Fabulous. That was. Did you see that message from Anne Hernandez?
I,
She
I,
said read your Calpene book and any similarities are purely coincidental. Lol.
absolutely. Well, I had to put a warning at the beginning that, to be honest, I don't think there's any one character represents any one person that I've met in my lifetime. I think most of the characters are kind of composite from various people that I've met, and not just here in local politics, but people that I've met. I don't know. I'm going to give the Brits a bad name here. We've got lots of great Brits that live around here. We've got 9,000 Brits that live in Mijas,
Hmm.
which I think is about 3 times the population of Compita.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
um, and we've got some incredible people, Anne being one of them, who do a fantastic job, who are very tuned into to the needs of the community. And we have our others who just meet every day for their coffee or their coffee and brandy or for the glass of wine at midday, and
Hmm.
nothing touches them. How do we know that? Because when we try to get them involved in the elections this year, out of about 12,000 foreigners that could have voted, 600 did.
Hmm.
And yeah, there were some problems for some people because of the time they've been here and the TIEs and not having 3 years on their TIE and all sorts of
Uh-huh.
problems. But it was just that so many of them live in their little bubble and nothing touches them. And then they complain afterwards, oh, we don't like this, we don't like that. But they don't get involved in the process.
Hmm.
And that kind of thing is it's not targeting any individual, but
Hmm.
we're having a bit of fun with it as well.
Great. I never asked you last time. What's the title all about? Is that a quote from a politician by any
Ah,
chance?
well, it's a title from the mayor of Calipeni, who she's one of these people who got there because she got there, not because she has any particular skill set, but she's been the mayor for a long time. And she said, we've got this climate emergency. What are we going to do about it? And someone on the council throws it back to her and said, well, it was you that wanted to declare a climate emergency. What are you going to do about it? And she wasn't ready for the question. And this happens with the mayor. That she has a little speech, and then she hasn't got a plan B.
Hmm.
And when someone said to her, so what are you going to do about it? She's thinking, oh, well, why not let some plant some peanut trees and we'll have our very own Calipeni peanut butter. And then someone says to her, but peanuts don't grow on trees. She says, what do you mean peanuts don't grow on trees? You know, almonds grow on trees, walnuts grow on trees. So of course peanuts grow on trees. And they're going, no, they don't. They grow under the ground like potatoes. Like, peanuts are nothing like potatoes. So,
Brilliant. Digging
so
around rabbit hole there.
that's where the title comes from, and it is having a laugh at some of the ludicrous decisions that politicians made. And, it happens everywhere. This is not about, I live in Mijas, but it's not really just about Mijas. I've seen it all over. I remember reading about, well, no, actually, it was a conversation about a small municipality in Andalusia where the council decided to build this, I don't know, €3 million sports centre, where you have the average age of the population was about 72, and and they've never been to a sports centre in their life. So you've got this beautiful sports centre built on the outskirts of the village that nobody used, and these things are real. And I can imagine that in other municipalities there have been similar things happening. It's like, why did they decide to do that? So I'm kind of I'm making fun of it, but I think there's also a kind of serious point behind it somewhere. And if we and I'm not in politics at all now. I'm very happy. I've been liberated from it, so I get to say what I want. But if we continue just to let other people decide, who runs our municipalities, then if these people are in there long enough, they no longer feel accountable to us, and they make these silly decisions. And at some point, rather than just complaining, we have to actually take the thing by the short and curlies and say, well, no, I'm not happy about it. I want someone else managing my money. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. Let's not forget it. It's about who spends our resources, not their resources.
You almost sound like you're standing for election there. That was a good speech.
Oh, God, no. I dipped my toe in the waters. I had a great time as a councillor. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed my time as a councillor. I hated the political parts. Council meetings for me were like death by 1,000 cuts. And some of them lasted 6 hours without a break.
Wow.
And people were leaving to nip across the road for the slice of the little wedge of tortilla and a coffee to sort of bring them back to life, they really were just, it's like, oh my God, it's a council meeting tomorrow. Then 8 o'clock in the morning of the council meeting, you get 10 emails with about 100 documents which you're supposed to read between 8 in the morning and 10 when the council meeting starts, and you think this is not serious. This is this is just basically taking the mickey out of everybody.
Yeah, there you go. So the launch party last week, how did that go?
We had a lot of fun. I will let a little secret out. All of the political parties have rather unfortunate initials. The main party that's been in power for 40 years is the Calipeni Revolutionary Alternative Party.
Got it.
If you can take pictures of that, you can see that Calipeni has been under crap government for 40 years. I'm not even going to tell you what the other parties are called. But,
this is why there's no Spanish version of the book, is it? Because that doesn't work.
Partly, yeah, but because I've said several times that the Spaniards never got it, and the foreigners never forgot it. But because you see, there was a little body, bodies that are formed in political parties at particular times of the year. And I'm going to say this, that I'll probably get into trouble for saying it, but I don't really care. They have, at campaign times and Congress times, they set up groups called the Comité de Organización de Congreso or the campaña. So they have these little committees, and this is not made up, but the parties will say, we now have a cock. which is a committee de organización de Congreso. We have a cock and we have to use it. We have to put it to good use. So this, and honestly, I've tried to tell them that's fine, but please don't convey this to any of the foreigners, because they're just going to laugh. And if you don't understand why they're going to laugh, let me explain it to you why. And they continue to use this.
I wonder if that's going to get past the YouTube censors. We'll have to see. There was Chris was talking with one of our regular watchers. He got some golf balls sent from this lovely watcher, and Chris was talking about it online, and he was talking about his name is Barry. I don't know if he's on this morning, but it was Barry from Unitech, and we were talking about Barry's balls quite a bit, and I got a strike for it, or some, a warning for language. So you have to be careful on these things. I don't know. We'll still find out at the end.
Listen, I remember having a conversation with Anne. I hope she's still with us just now. And I can't say the word, but someone was asking about a certain garden implement, which is a very common garden implement, which you use for sort of chopping off the heads of the weeds in the garden. Yeah. And this was on Facebook. And they got a warning for using this kind of language, and they were actually really talking about this garden implement.
The tool,
which
is another one.
Yes. and so I don't know if these things are done by real people, or if they're just done by algorithms somewhere. But it's like, this is incredible. Someone's saying, I've moved to Spain, and of course sometimes these things are not available very easily because they're different garden implements over here. I'm looking for and they got told to take the comment down, or that they were going to strike on their Facebook. I hope people catch what we're talking about here, by the way.
Yeah, I think, I'd explain it, but no, I'm going to leave it to people's intelligence and imagination. That one. Yeah, you've got a lot of double entendres in the book as well, haven't you?
There are a lot, yeah, and sometimes the double entendres are in Spanish, because I can say this, I won't explain it, but the word for rabbit in Spanish is conejo. But it also has another meaning, which the foreigners rarely get. And I'm not going to explain that. It all comes up, So there are double entendres in both in English and in Spanish, which the Spaniards rarely get the English ones, and the English speakers rarely get the Spanish ones. But again, it's a bit of fun. So there is a warning if you're really sensitive, or if you're overly politically correct, or if you're easily offended, please don't buy the book.
Yeah, there you go. But any normal people, buy the book.
Yeah.
And where can people get the book? Tell everybody that before we move on.
It is available at the moment on Amazon. I'm doing locally we had the launch, which was a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and I'm going to be doing locally some signings, because the thing about Micas, if people don't know the area, we have 150 square kilometers. In Micas, so actually it's a huge distance to cover, and of course the English speaking, and it's not just the Brits, but the English speaking population is spread pretty equally around 150 square kilometers. So I'm going to be doing some signings in various corners of Micas for folk that couldn't make it to the launch, and Anne certainly got it, because she's still listening.
Excellent.
Santa's cry, HHH. She remembers it.
Excellent.
But it is available on Amazon. If you type in Bill Anderson, "Peanuts Don't Grow on Trees," it should hopefully come up.
Excellent. So what we'll do, I think now we're about halfway through. So I'm going to throw out some news items, and
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
chat about them after the break. But before we start doing that, let's have a quick message from me and my 3 alter egos about the other things available to you as YouTooSpain
Indeed.
fans, and we'll have a little break. See you momentarily. Are you getting something helpful from this show? Are you enjoying YouTooSpain? Then click on the thumbs up and subscribe to YouTooSpain while you're here. And click on the bell for notifications. It's all free, but it's worth loads of money. I need coffee to keep my picker up. You can donate coffee to us all. There's a link in the video description below, or use the QR code. It'll be in the top left-hand corner of the screen after this message, sweetie. But that's not all. You can support YouTooSpain with a regular monthly amount. It's only a few quid. Oh, he's worth a lot more than that. There's a link below to Patreon, where you can find out what extra groovy things you get by helping out. Oh, I'm all a quiver. One more thing. Get on with it. There's an important guest twiddling their thumbs. All right, calm down. The lovely video watcher needs this. Go on then. There are lots of other links to vital things below. Like what? Well, do you need private healthcare insurance? Yes. Do you need a visa or residency? Do you need to exchange currency? What about finding a property? Or getting tax and pensions advice? Or getting a Spanish mortgage? Or getting documents translated and apostilled? Or getting a medical certificate? Or finding a lovely little app for learning Spanish? Do you need the best mobile phone provider? Or a digital business card so you never need paper ones again? Or do you just want one of YouTooSpain's t-shirts with a slogan on it? You can even get discounts on dental treatments and get a lovely little smile like Scats. All of those links are there, down below. If you can't find them, ask me in the comments. Is that everything, darling? I need to get my nails done. Probably not, but let's get back to the show, shall we? Back to Scats in the studio. I wanted to say that. Oh, stop being beastly, you two. You too, Spain. Over to you, Scats. Thank you, Scats. Hello, and thank you, Dougie. One day I'm going to re-record that little section there and show Doogie and the Colonel and any other of my wonderful alter egos. But yeah, Doogie's a nice one.
He's a nice one. Yeah.
He is, yes. And I was telling you, you've not seen the film Up. We were talking about this the other day.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
One of my favourite films, and I kind of, when I do voices for these characters, I usually start off with a voice from somewhere else, and it develops into something. But Doogie is loosely based to begin with on the dog from Up, who's also called Doug the dog, and he has one of these collars on which translates his thoughts into a voice.
Yeah. So he's obviously Scottish then. Doug.
No, he's not actually. He's got an American accent in the thing. But
that's a good Scottish word
is,
for
it?
dog. Doug. Oh, can I just make a comment here, Scats? Michael Bass has said, "Is there anywhere to buy the book that isn't Amazon?" Michael, I think you live in the Mijas area. Yeah, I can either we arrange to meet for a coffee. I can get one for you, or I can leave one somewhere for you. Or I will be organising. I'm speaking to various people about the signings around various parts of Mijas, probably at different times of the day as well. So I'll be advertising that, and maybe you'll be able to pop into one of the signings. Be happy to get a copy to you.
Brilliant. If anybody wants one in my area, up in Compiter, then get in touch. And I'm trying at the moment to kind of organise a signing up here. It's a bit more difficult because obviously you're not from this area, and people like to be talking about local things if there's an event on. So, but I'm going to try and find a way of linking it all in. I'm going to get the book to the book club here, and if they really big it up and enjoy it, then we'll get some interest over here as well. Because
we'll see what we can do. Yeah.
I'll have to read it first. There we go. So
yeah, you need to read it and get your black pen out, and before you hand it over to the book club, you can sort of do like one of these top secret documents.
Yes, redacted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, let's move on to these news items. I've done a couple of news shows with Doogie Dog. And hello. And the first one he did, appropriately, was about this dog liability insurance, the way it's been postponed, which was a
Yeah.
bit of a fail, wasn't it? Because they announced the law in February, and they had until September the 29th to get the details sorted out. And a couple of days before it was due to be implemented, they postponed it. Is that normal, or has somebody made a complete cock up? I'll use the word again.
I would think yes on both counts.
That's the simple answer. There you go. Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
typical. But you would have thought all of that time that there's somebody there in position to make sure that the rules are there.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the way that legislation is formed and implemented in Spain, I have to say. I oh God, the name has just escaped me. David, who wrote You and the Law in Spain, David Searle. The guy, he died recently. Was a lawyer. I think he was in his late 80s. Incredible guy. And I remember having a conversation with him about, about how laws seem to get passed, because I also did work on legal committees in the UK. And he said, yeah, the problem is they write a law, they pass it eventually, but they never look at how it's going to be implemented.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why when new laws come in, what they do in Compedat is different from what they do in Mijas, and what they do in Marbella is different from what they do in Madrid, because there's no real implementation plan. And over the next 5 years, probably through the courts, they decide whether Compedat's decision or Mijas' decision is good or bad, and then gradually they build up case law alongside the legislation which they've passed.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me to carry a wake of victims in its path, people who've been unfairly treated by this new law. So it doesn't really surprise me that it's been postponed, because that seems to, they say, oh, let's make this new law. And they actually announce it before they've got to the point of actually implementing it. Not of implementing it, of passing it into legislation. And then, of course, the summer came in the middle of all that as well. So
yeah, it's not a good time to get any law out, is it?
Nothing happens in well, I'm going to say July, August, and half of September, to be honest.
Yeah, it takes most of September to get back up to speed with everything, and that speed isn't very fast. Let's face it.
It is not. It isn't.
So yeah, so I wonder how many people have bought dog liability insurance in that period, and then didn't need it. Mind you, it's I think it's a good idea anyway, and a lot of people have got it on their house insurance as well.
Yeah. But I mean, we have civil liability on our house insurance, but I'm not sure if this is just a money making venture, or if there's a real reason behind it, because I haven't really heard it explained why the shifting, from civil liability on house insurance to separate civil liability for doggies.
Oh, there's a nice comment from Paul on the doggy front. Yeah, that sounds good. If there was a war with a doggy front, it would be a lot calmer, wouldn't it? Anyway,
Yes.
We heard that it's now illegal, to allow your dog to have puppies unless you're on a special registry to allow breeding. I've heard something about that as well. Is that part of the animal welfare bill that caused this insurance law?
Yeah, but you know what? It's fine to it's fine to say that you need to be on a special registry to allow breeding, but one of the major problems in Spain that I have seen is people, and especially Spaniards. I'm not saying only, but especially Spaniards don't like having their dogs sterilized. That they've got this thing, I don't know what it is, that whether it's because it costs money, or for example, I did a lot of work with the Michas donkeys. One of the problems we have up there is that they will not have their male donkeys castrated.
Mhm.
And when you have the conversation with them, I can't show you when it's a head and shoulders, but you're having conversation about castrating the donkeys, and the hands go in a V shape to the crotch.
Uh-huh.
And they say, no, but we're not talking about you, we're talking about the donkeys. And they go, oh, no, 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 no. And I think, you know, I do see, and not from breeding animals, and we're not even talking about, you know, puppy factories here, which are dreadful things. Um, I don't know, there seems to be an issue still about having the animals sterilized. And it's fine saying, you know, they have to be on a special registry, but who is going to police all of this?
Yeah, policing is the main issue, I think, on this.
Yeah.
On a lot of laws. I'm going to talk about the. Well, actually, yeah. Let's go on to the Malaga law, because this one is funny. They're talking about lewd behaviour. Basically, what they're saying is that people aren't allowed to carry blow-up dolls and inflatable genitalia around the streets. Now, it's all, of course, to do with stag and hen parties and the lewd
Sure.
behaviour, drunken
Sure.
behaviour. I mean, they've already banned, I think it's across Spain, no drinking in public, which is a bit of a strange law because pavement cafes full of people drinking. How far away from sitting down in a cafe do you need to be before you're public drinking, and or you're just sitting in a cafe having a drink with your meal? And I suppose it
Yeah.
depends on the police's perception of what's happening and what kind of behaviour they're displaying. But I can just see the possibilities of some very funny videos being made of police officers wrestling inflatable penises from drunk people in their underwear, and it makes for good comedy.
Yeah, you know, I'm fairly liberal in my views, but you know, Spain still has a very family-based culture,
Mhm.
and in general, and I know I'm stereotyping here, you know, the families are fairly conservative with a small c,
Mhm.
and you know, people living in the cities, you know, they're going out with their families because most places are family friendly,
Mm.
and I think it's a fair shout, first of all, to try to put some control on drunken behaviour,
Mhm.
um, and you know, people need to be pretty drunk to be carrying around these inflatable genitalia and things like that. And you know, so whilst I am fairly liberal in my thinking, I'm personally not offended by it,
Mm.
but I can understand why parents might not want to have their children, you know, in this spectacle
Mm.
of drunken people, and you know, they're very often wearing things that are a bit
Mm.
inappropriate as well, and carrying around these things. So I think I would have to say, yeah, it's a fair cop.
Mhm.
Um, on the drinking in public places, you see, um, I think that this has been introduced to stop what in Spain they call the botellones, which is where, you know, crowds of young people get together uh, with the cheap booze from the supermarkets, and just are out in the street, you know, very often in very public places, drinking.
Mhm.
Now, what I would be concerned about, you know, if this is not handled well, is that instead of them being in very public places,
Mm.
they go to less safe private places to do the same thing where they think they won't get caught.
Mhm.
And this happened in the UK when public drinking in certain areas was banned. So, you know, when this affects young people, it's not going to stop them doing it. They're just possibly going to go into abandoned buildings, or I don't know, industrial areas, or whatever, and do it in places where they're not going to get caught. I'm never convinced that you can change. And for young people, this has become a cultural thing, and I'm never convinced that you can change culture by legislation.
Mm. Yeah. It's a very good point. Yeah, and we're back to policing this kind of thing,
Yeah.
and you might end up having a negative effect on people if you've got police roaming the streets, stopping people from enjoying themselves.
Sure. And very simple things. Are they just going to pick the low-hanging fruit? So, for example, you're with a group of people, you're sitting on a terrace, you're having a drink, and that presumably is perfectly legal, but because they measure the terraces very specifically. You have 2 meters, and sometimes if a chair moves beyond the 2 meters, you'll get a local policeman almost out with a measuring tape saying, no, that chair needs to be moved in. So you're sitting with a group of people, and let's just suppose, for example, none of them are smokers, and you want to have a smoke. So, a polite person might get up and pick up their beer or their glass of wine and step away from the tables, not necessarily causing obstructions in any of the other public areas, and have their smoke with their beer or their glass of wine. Are these the people that are going to get caught with this, rather than what I believe it's primarily about is to stop these botellones of young people? These are my concerns.
Yeah. Yes, very valid indeed. So, yeah, what do you do?
I'm reading Anne's comment.
Yeah, me too. At the donkey. Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen, but I won't say it. There we go. You can all have a read about that one there. I don't know why I'm suddenly getting conservative in my old age as well from doing this program and thinking, what language can we use? But we've used a lot of it already. So
we have indeed, yeah. It's all in good fun. We're not insulting anyone.
No, absolutely not. No. I was going to ask the question: Is Spain becoming more conservative? But you're right by describing as conservative with a small c, and religious as well. It looks like a very strong Catholic country, but it's almost Catholic with a small c as well, because it's not sort of rigorously imposed and.
No, I see, and I may be being very unfair to the people who are, Catholics with a large C, but I see Catholicism in Spain as being as much a cultural thing as a religious thing, to be honest. I kind of came a bit unstuck about this because I'm not a religious person, and I was pressured. I didn't yield to it, but I was pressured to take part in the processions, and it's not just the Easter processions. That they have the procession of the local virgins, if people know what I mean, on their throne.
Yeah.
And it's traditional for the councillors to walk at the front of these things holding these silver bars. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to do it. But you have to, because you're a councillor now. And I said, no, I don't, because I'm not religious. And I think it would be very disrespectful for me to take part in that, not having, not being a person of faith. And if people do this because they are Catholic and people of faith, then I think they should be perfectly open for them to do it. But that's not me.
No.
And for me to do it, there could only be one reason for it, and that would be political reasons. And I don't believe that that we should mix any more church and state than it's already mixed in Spain. So I politely turned down the opportunity to do this, and I got a lot of stick for it. But it is also why I say, because I know a lot of these people don't go to church on any kind of regular basis, other than when there's a mass that politicians go to. And it's why I say that I think it's more of a cultural thing than a religious thing. Spain is Catholic with a small c, rather than Catholic with a large c. And so I'm maybe stereotyping again, but it's certainly the way I see it.
We moved from Ireland, and that's I would say more Catholic, it's more deeply ingrained. But I still there's I think a seed change as the population,
Yeah.
as the younger population comes through, that tend to be less conservative and less religious. Although Ireland's got this problem of not many jobs for young people, especially out in rural areas, so they all tend to become the diaspora and go around the world,
Yeah.
and so you lose that.
And I remember in Scotland, Scats, it's still on the topic, that there was some new legislation coming in, and we had to get some kind of consultation going. So, it was how do we get message out to people so that people will come and talk to us about it. And I lived in Lanarkshire at the time, and there are one or two little enclaves in Lanarkshire that are still, and I put with a capital C, very Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to the priest, and I explained what the problem was in getting people's views. And he says, I think an Irishman, "No, you just leave it to me. I'll sort it all out." So he announced at one of his church services, Bill Anderson is looking for consultation about this. So, I want you to get in touch with him and give me views. And people were phoning me and contacting me. So, it still happens in these, some of these little communities that still have a very strong religious identity,
Mm-hmm. And that is where a
interesting.
lot of the people in Caerphilly, where we used to live, that's where a lot of people got their information about what was going on, any gigs in the area, that kind of thing. It was always the notices on Sunday
Right.
at the church,
Yeah.
which
There we
of
go.
course I wasn't involved with, being non-religious and also English. Although I could, if I was an English Catholic, I would. And in fact, I would probably have been welcomed in anyway. But
Yeah, I just see, Scats, that Christopher's said that there's still plenty of freedom in Spain. And I just wrote an article, column for the Euro Weekly. It was published just last week, and actually I picked up on that a lot. That in many ways, we have the good life in Spain, and I've compared it. Thinking about going back to the UK and thinking about all of the things that are happening in the UK at the moment, and it did seem, it looked a bit like just a list of disastrous decisions, and saying, well, at least we don't have all of this going on in Spain, and however frustrated people get with things in Spain, I have to agree that we still have, relatively, a much higher degree of freedom than is happening in many more, and I'm going to say more developed politically worlds. I'd have to agree with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good point. I mean, and we're only in Spain how many years now? So 1890. We're only 40. Is it 40 years away from Franco backwards, or is it 50 now? It's 50 now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably 50 now, but what you have to remember is that Spain is not a new democracy. Democracy existed pre-Franco as well. What they had the opportunity to do was to recreate democracy, basically to like an old jumper, to rip it down and knit it up into something new. So it's not a new democracy. There was, when the Civil War happened, that there was democracy, and people didn't like what happened, and hence the Civil War. But they have had the opportunity to knit it up like that, like an old ripped down jumper. And in some ways they made a good job of it, but in other ways that they kept some of the bad bits from the old democracy, which was the bureaucracy.
Yes, it's all very interesting. I need to study on Spanish history, I think, before, because I may one day go for citizenship. It's not as necessary for me because I've got Irish EU citizenship, but my wife Liz is going to go for it because she does want to be European. So
yes,
yeah. So we'll have to learn about everything. Although I don't suppose the test is extremely hard. But I've heard that the test that they came up with for Britain was ridiculously hard, and most people couldn't answer the questions anyway, even if they'd lived there.
I've done the test just online, just out of interest, and without doing any studying for it. I mean, there were some tricky questions like how many members of parliament are there from Ceuta? It's like,
Wow.
well, I don't think many Spaniards probably know that,
No.
but it's if you've read a bit of history, I don't know what size shoe the king takes, or various things like that, but a lot of it is just general knowledge, and I think I scored without even trying it seriously. I probably scored about 75 or 80%. So it's certainly doable.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know. Just want to drop in a little note here that I saw announced very recently in a top luxury and lifestyle magazine. Malaga has been voted 6th most welcoming destination in the world. This following on from what we were talking about
Yes.
lewd behaviour, and it's now also among the top 5 destinations for foodies. So
Yeah.
I'd just like to big up Malaga and say, it's not a cesspit of stag and hen parties. I've not actually seen any of them, to be honest.
Right.
But I love it though.
No, we see some around here, but they don't tend to be as outrageous. You can see all well, probably more hen parties I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But you know them because the girls are all wearing T-shirts, and sometimes I think they get maybe a bit loud and a bit over the top. But I certainly haven't been exposed to blow up things.
Brilliant. Sushan says, loving your T-shirts, Cats. Yeah, I did get a job lot. I asked a few Christmases ago. I think we were in Ireland, and I said to my wife, she never knows what to buy me. She says I'm the most difficult person to buy for Christmas. But I just said, look, just get me a load of tie-dye T-shirts, because I'm a bit of an old hippie. I've lost the hair, but I still have some of the lifestyle. So yeah, this is a particularly nice one, a great big V shape of. I like the black and purple colours. Anyway, there you go. Jed Tierney saying, sorry for being late. Just had his COVID jab in the UK, and that brings us on nicely actually, because to the next subject I was going to come up with, and possibly the final one that I've got in my notes. That I had a gig cancelled because of COVID 2 days ago. Not exactly cancelled. It was a bit odd actually. My music colleague, I'm in a duo. He was worried that Liz had COVID, which she did. She was tested positive, and he didn't want his wife to get it because she's vulnerable. She's got a chest complaint. Can't remember the name of it. So he suggested that he do the gig solo, and I'm going to do the next one solo, which is on Sunday. So, and the odd thing is there are loads of people in the villages here. I know that there are loads of people who have the symptoms, or they've tested positive, and some of them, no doubt, were at his gig, and some of them will be at mine, whether they know it or not. So it's all a bit strange and ridiculous. We ended up getting less money in total as well, but.
I don't know. I think we need to accept, and this has been said not by me, it's been said by experts in the field, that especially since we hit the Omicron phase of COVID, it's now endemic, such as flu is endemic, such as summer colds are endemic. And I don't know. I think that we're it's something we just need to deal with and live with now. And in general, the kind of symptoms that are being reported from what we're now calling doesn't resemble in many ways what we were describing in the very early days. With Alpha and Delta and all these kind of things. And we need to decide at some point how we deal with that. But we can't avoid it.
No. I mean, at the moment they've just announced. I'm going to do a news item actually with Doogie Dog, hopefully this week,
Yeah.
there's a usual phase of autumn vaccinations that in previous years have been just about the flu. You're getting your flu jab, but now it's in Spain. It's going to be a combined flu and COVID jab, which
Right.
is just fair enough because they're similar strengths now. Like you say, the symptoms are very similar. And I looked at the details of the rollout, and I'm because I'm not 60 yet. I'm not in any of the age groups, nor am I in any of the risk categories.
No.
Although my past diabetes is, and I think I've because I've not got those symptoms anymore. I don't think I need to be getting that at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really. I've never had a flu jab. I'm 65. I've never had a flu jab. I've had the flu once in my life, in my 20s. But we try to look after our immune system, and to be honest, since we're really sort of focused on that, I haven't even had a cold. And make sure we get plenty of vitamin D, which is great for your immune system. We have a pretty balanced diet for some of the reasons that you were talking about. So
There's plenty of a chance to get out and exercise in the warm air in Spain as well. So
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, you do tend to get in the expat communities. There are lots of elderly and vulnerable people here.
Yeah.
I suppose because of the age group that people tend to move over. A lot of our audience are 55 to 65, and then it's their intention to retire and to live here till the end. So
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
Sure. No, I think people have to do what feels right for them. I think that's really important, and people will have decisions to make about these things. But if anything, that my mother, who died just a couple of years ago, if she got a call, she was 88, but if she got a call from the doctor saying, "Come for your X, Y, or Z jab," she would move hell and high water to get there because the doctor said you need to do it. But that was her decision, and I think a lot of people feel the same. If the doctor says it's good for me, then let's do it. And I think people need to make their own mind up and their own decisions about these things.
That's true. It was made very available in Ireland. I got notices through all the time about, did I want a flu jab? Did I want this? Did I want that? And as soon as the diagnosis of diabetes came in, I was allocated a diabetes nurse and a course to go on to tell me about different food groups and things like that. So it's good to see that there's information being given out and there's support for the community in there. I don't know how much of that happens in Spain, but my doctor's very keen to have me come back on a very regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've been here 21 years in December of this year, and I'm ashamed to say it. Other than 3 times I had to go for a medical for my work, I've never actually been to the doctor. So
I suppose if you don't need it and you're not even getting colds, then
no,
it does point to the fact that you're fairly healthy, doesn't it?
long may it continue. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree on that one. What's Jed saying? The north of England has had the high-speed train cancelled. Yes, because we can't deliver large projects. How can Spain manage to deliver things the UK cannot? It's a good point. The Spanish rail system has just had some new high-speed links put in. You can get from Malaga to Madrid really quickly now.
Yeah. I mean, I think where Spain is not great is the train, the Renfe stops in Fuengirola, and there's no train service from Fuengirola to the west. That there are some train services inland, so you can get to some rural point like I don't know, just down from Ronda. There's a train service running inland, but they don't have the same infrastructure for local train services that the UK, for example, has. But yeah, they have got an excellent high-speed service.
It is good, isn't it? Yeah. So, Paul Jarvis Beasley again. Hi, Scats. Haven't joined all of your excellent shows. Based on current chat, just wondering if you have had or are planning to have a health professional on the show. Certainly planning to have somebody who talks about health insurance. Yes, we had Sam Campbell on the show recently talking about all kinds of insurance. And she is an excellent broker. So we're going to have her on, I think, specifically talking about health insurance
Right.
very soon. So, but health professional, that's an interesting one. Should I get a doctor on the show to talk about the health system here? That'll be interesting. I'll have to see if I can find one whose English is excellent. I found a dentist whose English was excellent and had him on the show. He's the one who did mine. You've all heard about that. So there we go. Well, we've just about reached the end of questions. If anybody else has any more questions on the live chat, then ask now. There is, as I always say, a little bit of a delay in your messages appearing on the live chat. So while we're waiting for that to happen, let me just remind you that after we go off air, if you have any more questions or comments, put them in the YouTube comments below. Don't put them on some random Facebook expat group, even though I like the expat group, but people don't get to see the comments as much about the show that specifically they're about. So if you want to comment on the show, do it on the YouTube comments down there. Yeah. And that will help everybody. So everybody that watches this in the future, and it will be thousands of people that will see your comment on here. Whereas on an expat group, it'll be me. And while I love watching your comments and replying to them, I'd rather do it on here, and it helps the channel as well.
Yeah.
There you go. And Suchan says there's not even slow speed trains yet in Tenerife. Well, it's a bit more of a difficult place to build train tracks, I suppose. It's volcanic rock, isn't it, Tenerife?
Yeah, it's a bit mountainous, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit too expensive for that. Settle for the taxis and buses, public transport.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, any more questions? Just hit the like button, folks, said John McClue. Absolutely. Everybody hit the like button if you haven't already, and subscribe as well, so you can be the first to know what's coming up each week, and on the live shows and on the midweek videos as well, on the news items with Doogie Dog. Breaking news. So, in a moment, I'll tell you who we have on the show next week. But for now, let's say a huge thank you to Bill for being a wonderful guest. It's been an absolute pleasure. Loads of fun.
It always is, Scats. Yeah, it's lovely.
Absolutely. And we'll see you again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you for having me on. It's been fun.
You're very welcome. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye now. So,
on next Saturday's show then, who do we have to answer your questions? As if you haven't guessed. Yes, it's Chris from Upsticks, because he's on every other week, isn't he? And he'll be answering a whole range of questions just for you about visas and residency and living in Spain. And we seem to be chatting and going off on a tangent more and more about living in Spain and all of the little details that you might not expect, and hints and tips for you for living in Spain, and just about the fun that goes on, and introducing you to different aspects of life here. You can find out the details of any specific topics that we'll cover on our Facebook page and group. The Facebook group's called the YouTooSpain community. Just sign up to that and you'll find out whenever I announce it. So you can ask questions in advance on there, and that'll be lovely. Anne Hernandez says, lovely start to the weekend. Thank you, Scats and Bill. Thank you for joining. And I see you've got paired next to you there, and also to Michael Bass, which I think means that you've paired up with your stream as well. So it's on your channel at the same time, which is something that everybody can do, I think. I've not explored that one properly, but thank you for doing that and getting this show out. Make sure all of those people who are paired up link in with this show as well, and get your subscription sorted out so that you can get your notifications every week about all of the other times, and we'll let you know when Bill's on again. So there you go. Thank you those people who are watching back afterwards and leaving comments and hitting the like button and buyingmeacoffee.com, which you can do with this lovely QR code there, or there's a link down below. If you're trying to hover over your own phone with a phone, if you're watching on your phone, then you can't do that with a QR code, I don't think. So there we go. Christopher says, I subbed the channel last year. I'm surprised to see you aren't over 100k yet. The information videos are great. Well, thank you. Yes, it's thank you for your support, for subscribing. I suppose the reason why we're not over 100,000 views is because these things happen slowly on YouTube. It takes shows. I've only been doing this for 2 to 3 years, and it does take a while. It takes years for people to get up to that level. And also, I think the subject, because it's a niche topic, it's not everybody who's wanting to have to get the information immediately about moving to Spain. So I don't think there are 100,000 people who want to move here in the near future, and those are the people that want the information. So, which I suppose is why we're doing lots of information about living here as well, so that the expat community, or the immigrant community, as I should be calling us, can watch the show and get lots out of it as well. So if you have any people that you'd like to see come on the show, if you have any subjects that you'd like to watch us cover, I think me and Chris from Upsticks as well, he's got a lovely YouTube channel going now, and we're both starting to talk to personalities like Bill, who have lots and lots of great things to say and comments about what happens in this amazing country. So there we go. That is all for this week. I will see you on the latest helpful video or news item, whatever it turns out to be this week, on Wednesday evening. That's our midweek. And then live next Saturday morning at the regular time of 10 o'clock. That's local Spanish time or Central European time, or 9 o'clock if you're over in the UK or Ireland or the Channel Islands, indeed, or 4 o'clock in the morning if you're in New York. I'm sure you can work it out if you're anywhere else in the world. So that's all for this week. Somebody pass around the politically satirical cookies. We have loads of kinds of cookies here, don't we? And there's just time to say peace and love to you all. And here's one final message from all of us here at YouTooSpain. Bye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love. Peas and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right, then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.